Here is what is actually happening inside your body after 40. Three really significant shifts are taking place simultaneously, and they are not dramatic or sudden. They creep in quietly. First, your insulin sensitivity starts to decline. What that means in plain English is that your body is becoming less efficient at handling blood sugar. So when you eat something that raises your blood sugar, your body needs more insulin to deal with it. And over time, that cycle starts to create problems. Second, your muscle mass begins to decrease. So even if you are relatively active, maintaining muscle becomes harder after 40. And muscle is metabolically active tissue, meaning the more you have, the more calories your body naturally burns just going about your day. Less muscle means that number goes down. Third, your hormones shift, and those hormonal changes specifically tend to direct fat storage toward your midsection. That is why belly fat after 40 can feel so stubborn and so targeted compared to how your body may have stored fat when you were younger. I want you to hold on to this one idea throughout everything we discussed today. The problem is not always the food itself. The problem is that your body is now playing by a completely different set of rules. Something that was totally fine at 28 might now be working against you simply because your internal chemistry has changed. That is not a failure, that is biology. And biology is something we can always work with. All right, let us get into it. Food number one is breakfast cereal. I know, this one feels almost unfair because we've been eating cereal our entire lives, and the boxes are covered in hearts and whole grain stamps and images of women jogging happily into the sunrise. The marketing is convincing. The packaging screams healthy. And if it's low fat on top of all that, it feels like a responsible choice. But here's what is actually happening. Most conventional breakfast cereals digest extremely fast. We're talking minutes. They break down quickly, your blood sugar rises quickly, your body releases insulin to deal with that rise, and then your blood sugar comes crashing back down. That crash is what makes you hungry again by 10 o'clock, even though you ate breakfast at 7. Now, layer the first shift we talked about on top of that. After 40, managing those blood sugar spikes and crashes is harder. Your system is less flexible, less forgiving. Those repeated daily spikes are doing something your body used to recover from more easily, and now it's struggling to keep up. What actually works better in the morning is something built around protein. Eggs, Greek yogurt, even a savory option. Protein slows digestion, blunts those blood sugar spikes, and keeps you full for actual hours rather than minutes. Your mornings do not have to be a hunger roller coaster. Food number two is fruit juice. And I want to handle this one gently because I think it genuinely surprises people. Fruit juice feels inherently healthy. It comes from fruit. It has vitamins. Some of it is even organic or cold-pressed or whatever the current premium version is. I get why this one flies under the radar. The problem is not the fruit. The problem is what happens when you remove the fiber. When you eat a whole orange, the fiber in that orange slows down how quickly the sugar enters your bloodstream. The absorption is gradual. Your body has time to deal with it. But when you drink orange juice, that fiber is gone. The sugar moves into your bloodstream rapidly, your insulin responds, and then you are hungry again faster than you would expect. And here is the part that really matters. Your body often treats fruit juice more like a soft drink than a piece of actual fruit. After 40, when insulin sensitivity is already declining, that rapid sugar delivery is exactly what you do not want first thing in the morning, or honestly, at any point in the day. Eating whole fruit is genuinely different. The fiber changes everything. Food number three is flavored coffee drinks. And listen, I am not here to take away your morning ritual. Coffee itself is fine. Coffee can actually be beneficial. The issue is what happens to that coffee when it becomes a flavored drink from a cafe or a bottled version from the grocery store. Many of these drinks contain added syrup, sweetened creamers, flavored powders, and sugar in amounts that are honestly closer to dessert than to a beverage. Some of them rival milkshakes in their sugar content. Here's why belly fat specifically loves liquid calories. When you eat food, your body registers the eating and adjusts your hunger accordingly. But liquid calories do not trigger that same fullness signal with nearly the same reliability. So you finish a large flavored coffee drink, your body has taken in hundreds of calories, and you walk away still ready for breakfast. You end up consuming those calories in addition to your meals rather than instead of them. After 40, when your metabolism is already working with a smaller margin, those invisible daily calories add up in ways that show up exactly where you least want them. Food number 4 is low-fat food products. And this one has a real history attached to it. For decades, women were told emphatically and repeatedly that eating fat makes you fat. Low-fat options were everywhere. They were praised by doctors, recommended by magazines, and marketed specifically to women who wanted to maintain a healthy weight. Here's what was quietly happening in the background. When food manufacturers removed the fat from products, the food tasted terrible. Fat carries flavor. It creates texture. Without it, products became unpalatable. So manufacturers replaced the fat with something else. Sugar, refined starches, and various flavor enhancers to make the product taste good enough to sell. The result is that many low-fat products actually trigger more cravings, provide less satisfaction, and leave you reaching for more food sooner than their full-fat counterparts would. I want you to sit with this one because it goes against everything many of us were taught growing up. Low-fat does not always mean low-fat storage. In fact, the blood sugar spikes from the added sugars in many low-fat products can contribute more directly to belly fat than the fat that was removed in the first place. Real food with naturally occurring fats consumed in reasonable amounts is often a far better choice than a processed product engineered to seem healthy. Now, by this point, you might be noticing a pattern. Every better choice I have pointed to keeps circling back to the same few things: real food, more protein, fewer hidden sugars. And here's the honest part. Knowing that is one thing, but actually building every single meal around it, breakfast, lunch, dinner, even your snacks and your sweet cravings, when you are tired and busy and the last thing you want is to figure out yet another meal, that is the part that trips most women up. So it's not the knowing, it's the doing it every day without it turning into another full-time job. That is exactly why we created the Menopause Protein Bundle. It takes everything we just talked about and turns it into done-for-you meals. High-protein breakfasts that keep your blood sugar steady all morning, lunches and dinners that work with your hormones instead of against them, and yes, even desserts and smoothies that satisfy the cravings without the crash. Every recipe is built for a body after 40. Everyone is ready in about 10 minutes, and there's nothing to track and nothing to count. You just open it and cook. So please check out the link in the description, because this could be the moment your mornings stop starting with that heavy, puffy belly. The moment you start eating real food you actually enjoy, watch your waistband quietly loosen over the next few weeks, and finally feel like your body is working with you again instead of against you. Food number 5 is white bread and refined grains. And this one connects directly back to what we discussed about insulin sensitivity. White bread, regular pasta, white rice, standard crackers, these foods digest rapidly. They break down quickly, they spike your blood sugar, and because they do not contain much fiber or protein, they do not keep you full for long. The result is frequent hunger, frequent eating, and a body that is constantly managing blood sugar spikes throughout the day. Now, before 40, many women could eat these foods without noticing much impact. Their bodies were more forgiving, the insulin response was more efficient. But after 40, the body becomes less tolerant of those repeated spikes. The same foods that felt neutral at 30 now create a cycle that encourages fat storage, particularly in the abdominal area. The swap here is not about elimination, but substitution. Whole grains, higher fiber breads, adding protein alongside whatever carbohydrates you are eating. These small changes meaningfully slow digestion and reduce the blood sugar roller coaster that makes belly fat after 40 so persistent. Food number 6 is granola and so-called healthy snack bars. This one falls under what I call the health halo problem. These products look the part. They have nature imagery on the packaging, words like wholesome and natural and energy, and they sit in the health food aisle, which automatically makes them feel virtuous. But when you actually read the ingredient list on many popular granolas and snack bars, you find added sugars, various syrups, refined oils, and a calorie count that might genuinely surprise you. A small portion of granola that looks like a reasonable serving can contain as much sugar as a candy bar. And because of the health halo, women rarely question it. They add it to yogurt and top it with fruit and consider it a healthy meal. But what they have actually done is created a fairly high sugar breakfast that is going to drive hunger within a couple of hours. After 40, when managing cravings and blood sugar is already more challenging, foods that look healthy but act like sugar are a real hidden obstacle. Reading ingredient lists matters more now than it ever did before. Food number 7 is late night comfort food, and this is the one that I think connects most deeply for a lot of women because it is tied to emotions as much as it is to biology. After a long day, when you're tired and maybe a little stressed, and the house is finally quiet, the pull toward chips or cookies or ice cream is completely understandable. I am not judging that impulse at all. But here's what's happening physiologically. In the evening, your insulin sensitivity naturally declines. Your body is less equipped to handle blood sugar spikes at night than it is earlier in the day. At the same time, tiredness increases cravings, particularly for high sugar and high fat foods. So you're reaching for the exact foods that your body is least equipped to handle at exactly the time of day when handling them is hardest. Late night snacking on foods like chips, cookies, and ice cream doesn't just add calories. It adds calories at a time when your body is more likely to store them, less likely to burn them, and more likely to direct them toward your midsection. Sometimes it's not what you're eating, it's when you're eating it. Now, I want you to notice something about this entire list. Not one of these foods is inherently evil. Cereal is not poison, fruit juice is not a toxin, granola is not a villain. The issue is more nuanced than good food versus bad food. What connects all 7 of these foods is that they tend to spike blood sugar, increase hunger, reduce satiety, and encourage overeating. And they do all of that at a stage of life when your metabolism is already working with less flexibility than it had before. That is the real problem. Not the food in isolation, but the combination of what these foods do metabolically and what your body is already navigating after 40. So instead of obsessing over everything you need to cut out or restrict, I want to flip the conversation entirely. Because I genuinely believe the most powerful thing you can do after 40 is not about subtraction. It is about addition. Let me tell you about 3 categories of food that are actually working with your body at this stage of life rather than against it. The first is protein. Eggs, fish, chicken, Greek yogurt. Protein does several remarkable things simultaneously. It slows digestion, which means more gradual blood sugar release. It is highly satiating, meaning it keeps you full for longer. It supports muscle mass, which, as we talked about, is actively declining after 40, and which directly impacts how many calories your body burns daily. Women over 40 who prioritize protein at every meal tend to find that cravings decrease, energy stabilizes, and the constant mental chatter about food quiets down significantly. The second is fiber. Vegetables, beans, berries. Fiber does something similar to protein in that it slows how quickly food moves through your system and how quickly sugar enters your bloodstream. It feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut, which increasingly research is connecting to everything from weight management to mood to hormone health. The women who eat the most fiber-rich foods also tend to have the most stable blood sugar patterns, and stable blood sugar is genuinely the foundation of managing belly fat after 40. The third is healthy fats. Avocados, nuts, olive oil. This one still makes some women nervous because of decades of low-fat messaging, but healthy fats are deeply satisfying. They support hormonal health, which is a significant factor for women after 40, and they actually help your body absorb fat-soluble nutrients more effectively. Including healthy fats in your meals tends to reduce the cravings and the overeating that happen when meals feel unsatisfying. The 7 foods we talked about today are not a list of things to feel guilty about. They are a starting point for understanding. When you know why something is creating a problem, you can make a different choice from a place of knowledge rather than restriction. That is a completely different relationship with food than most of us were taught to have, and it is one that actually works long-term.